Welcome to episode 5 of the Escaping Normal podcast. I've got my good friend Sonia here with me this morning, and I was trying to think of what would be a fitting introduction. And I thought, she's a jack of many different trades, right? So I thought, let me just get her Instagram up and let me read her bio. And I think that'll give you a little bit of insight into who you're going to be speaking with today. So her bio says, fashion is art, mind and wellness, yogi corn, barra babe, performing arts, spiritual alchemy, holistic health, fitness is life, tree hugger, and a real life fairy.
Basically, yeah.
Basically that in a nutshell,
Yeah,
right?
literally. It couldn't get more accurate than my Instagram bio, I guess.
Welcome to the podcast, son.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, mate.
And as you said, we're such good friends. So this is super exciting for me to be here because I'm not even nervous about it. It's just like we're sitting in my living room, having a casual conversation. That's what it feels like.
Like we normally do. And I thought what's cool
Exactly.
about this is I think there's so much to you and there's so many conversations that we've had, but I feel like by us doing this, we can really, really dive in. I think you've got such an interesting story and I can't wait for this conversation. So I want to start off, take us back to, because you're from India originally, right?
Well, Mombasa originally.
Okay.
Yeah. So you want to know about my
Let's go.
little life history, why ever not? So Mombasa's home.
Yeah.
I spent my whole life till I was about 15 or 16 there.
Yes.
Then I went for sixth form to the UK to London.
Yes.
At a performing arts school called Arts Educational Schools of London, ArtsEd.
Yes.
And then after that, I moved to Mumbai. And I was in Mumbai till I moved here.
So wait, so why did I think from India? Because your family is from India.
Yeah,
Is it?
my mum's family is actually 3-4 generation East African Indian, so Tanzania, Kenya, all of that.
Okay.
My dad is from India, from Mumbai.
Got you.
Yeah. He was a really famous actor in the 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s? Yeah, 80s. He passed away unfortunately I think in 92.
Yeah.
And but he's left a proper legacy. Everyone remembers him, and he's incredible.
What kind of movies and stuff was he in?
So he was I think he did over 100 films, 150 films or something.
So when you say because there's different levels of famous.
Yeah.
So he's super well known.
Yeah,
so
he's really well known.
Anyone kind of within that kind of era would 100%
Anyone,
know.
exactly. Anyone who knows Bollywood of 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s, they would all literally recognize his name. If not, if you show them a picture, they'll be like, oh my God, that guy, no way, that's your dad. So I'm really proud of him. And even though he passed away when I was really little, I think I was about 2, I have a different sort of grief attached to that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just so grateful that I can actually watch films of his, see what he could have been like, look at what he expressed look at all his body language, all of it. So I'm really, really grateful that I have access to that sort of stuff.
And I think a lot of
about
people
him.
don't have that,
Yeah.
right? When their parents pass away, they've got a couple of photos,
Yeah.
couple of videos, but you can literally see your dad acting in his absolute element.
Exactly. And especially from that era, who even had phones and stuff that took pictures. I mean, now you've got all your stuff on your phone, WhatsApp chats with your dad or your mom or whatever, to remember them by. So in a way, it's always been this sort of mysterious connection I had. Well, we'll get back to him because that was the start of my spiritual journey. So
How did you said you were born in Mombasa, right?
Yes.
Where is that?
in Kenya.
That's in Kenya.
East Africa, yeah, Kenya, East Africa. And I literally, that's home, went to Mombasa Academy, went to nursery there, kindergarten, all of it. My whole life was in Mombasa, and then came London, and then came Mumbai, and then came Dubai.
So had you spent much time in India at all?
Yeah.
We
used to go when we were little a lot because my mom spent a lot of time there, when we were little.
Yeah.
Because my dad was it was his dream to direct a film. And he'd already finished, I think, about 50% of that film. And she had to go back to complete that. So she was there about 4 years or something, or 5 years nearly, when we were little. So we'd go almost every summer So Mumbai was already a very key part of like who I was. And then I didn't go at all. And then I went when I was 14. And then I was like, okay, I think I want to do the whole, I always knew I wanted to act. And I always knew that I wanted to be in Bollywood in particular.
Yeah.
But I think by the time I finished like sixth form and everything, I decided not to go to uni and just move straight to India when I was 18.
To pursue
To do films and acting and stuff like that, yeah.
What was that like?
Woo, that was a journey, I'll tell you. Okay, so I always say that things happen to people for a reason. Like, had I not gone to India, I think I wouldn't have I was already into like this whole mystical spiritual world. Okay, now we can talk about that. So when I was little, I was too little to understand what my dad being dead meant.
Yeah.
So they were like, always explain to me, he's up there, you know, and like at the sky. And our skies in Mombasa are unreal. Oh my God, we can literally see the freaking Milky Way. It's so, can I say freaking?
You do you.
You can see the Milky Way and it's like unreal. And then it always like when I was little and I used to look up at that gorgeous sky and I always had this like, okay, up there, that means there's more out there. That means what is out there? And then I refused to believe that if someone's physically not here, that means they're gone forever. And then I even had like the small sort of, I don't know if it was a child coping mechanism, but I had like this imaginary friend and a shadow. It was a shadow every night before I slept, like on top of the cupboards. And I always knew it gave me sort of comfort knowing that it wasn't a physical form. It was just a shadow. Again, like it could have just been a child coping mechanism, but that shadow was the same shape, same form, same whatever, like it wasn't like a man or a woman, but the same sort of thing. And I would feel that was my dad like protecting me, if that makes sense.
Got you.
And then by the time I got old enough, which was about, I think, 12, to read the texts, I started reading like a lot of like books on spirituality and like knowing like about what happens after someone dies, like what happens, because I refused to believe that was it. And by then, because at least I thought he was like protecting me and whatever, he was already then communicating with me even more. Then I started studying, like I literally studied so much, read so much about like what happens to the soul after one passes. And I can tell you now that I'm in my mid-30s that I am so connected to my dad still. Just because he's not here doesn't mean he's not here. He's actually in a much higher place. And everything that has happened in my life has all been because of his protection and his guidance.
That's amazing.
Honestly, yeah. Yeah, so I never felt like he wasn't there, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because he's everywhere now.
And I guess by you sort of going sort of like somewhat into that industry could allowed you to connect with him even further. You know, and I'm sure is that sort of also one of the reasons why you kind of went in,
oh my God,
got involved
100%.
in it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like, I remember when I used to do that work, like was my full-time work, and I'd do interviews and then I'd be like, they'd be like, oh, when did you know you wanted to act and stuff? I was like, honestly, I feel like I was born knowing that I wanted to get into films. Like I was always like this drama queen. I was always part of the drama club in school.
I would never ever, I would never think that, son.
All the leads in like the school plays. And like, I was always like, you know, like super into it. Like we had LAMDA, which is like London Academy. Did you guys have that in South Africa?
No, I don't think so.
So it was like LAMDA, London Academy of Music and Dramatic Arts.
Okay.
They would do courses in like British schools.
Yeah.
I went to British school in Mombasa Academy. And you could do that as a side thing along with your school, and you could get like certified from them. So I was always part of LAMDA.
Okay.
And at some point I even got like the highest, like in the whole of East Africa, like the marks I got for like the acting.
Okay.
So that was like a really proud moment. They wrote about me in the newspaper in Mombasa and everything. And yeah, it was really cool. So I did a lot of that like through my school and everything.
Yeah.
And I always knew, to be honest, but when I actually went to India and I experienced whatever I experienced, I realized that my journey to go to India was a lot deeper than just chasing a dream.
Yeah.
And by that dream that I chased, which may have not ended up the way I wanted it to, in terms of like I had like a particular vision and goal where I wanted my career to go, and it didn't go that way.
What was that vision? What when you moved there, what did you want?
I wanted to basically be a lead actor, and I wanted to do like lots of films, and I wanted like like the films and eventually go into Hollywood and all of that
Okay.
to kind of be my main career.
Yeah.
And things didn't really go that way. It wasn't like that straight a road. It was
Yeah.
like all bumpy, and there's a lot of trauma attached. I mean, I can speak about it now after so many years.
Yeah.
Through the experience I had during those years, just because I was also really young. I was 18. Like, what
Yeah.
are you talking about, you know? I think I moved here when I was 27. So 26 or 26, actually, I moved here
Yeah.
because I lived there for about 8 years.
Yeah.
So there was a lot, you know,
Yeah.
I went through during those years. But I don't hold that as like something bad that happened to me. I'm not a victim of that.
Yeah.
I grew from that, and I became like an amazing understander of sort of humans and life and
Yeah.
people. And I'm really grateful for my journey. And still today, if someone's going to offer me like a film or a project or something, it's not like I'm going to say no. If something's good, I would still love to be a part of it.
So why didn't you pursue it? Because I think you have all the qualities of
I mean, it's
what an actress would be,
it's
right?
really tough. It's like literally a cutthroat, like dog eat dog.
Why do you say that? Because obviously for those also that don't really sort of understand and know what the whole Bollywood, Hollywood sort of acting sort of scene is like, what? And I've heard it's extremely cutthroat. What makes
Oh
it
my
so
God,
cutthroat?
it's really cutthroat. I think it's hard in the sense that you need to know people. And even if you know people, you need to sort of have some backing. And it's really difficult. Let's just put it in that
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
And there's a lot that I experience, but like I said, it's not like I closed that door. That door's still open. It's still got like, it's not wide open, but it's half open. And if someone offers me something again, and it's a good project to be a part of or something, and then that's the other
So
thing.
shout out anyone
Shout out
anyone listening to this. If you've got a sick project,
Yeah.
here's your girl.
Exactly. No, but I was also working in TV, MTV. I worked with them for just under a year. We did like different projects there, like MTV Style Check. I was basically like a host with MTV.
Okay.
They used to call them VJs. So one of their like VJs at that point.
What's a VJ?
I think it's just like a radio jockey.
Yeah.
That's what it used to. This is like I'm old. Don't forget that. So this was like ages ago. This was probably in like 2008 or 9 or something like that.
And that's why like MTV was.
Yeah,
you don't
it was-
hear of MTV now.
Yeah,
Like,
now it's
I
done.
think any
Exactly.
Generation Alpha actually would
They're
have
like,
no
what is
idea
MTV?
what that is. But MTV was
Mm-hmm.
MTV was like the cool thing. I used to
Yeah,
watch
it
all
was
the
a vibe.
I used to watch all the music videos and all of that.
So good. Yeah. Well, this was the Indian MTV, which
Yep.
is still as cool for India. And we even did like MTV Grind, by the way.
What's
Do you
MTV?
remember MTV Grind?
No, what's
the
that?
one with all the girls in the bikinis and in Miami, and they used to just put music on and dance and stuff.
Okay.
We had a version of that in the Indian one as well. So, which I was hosting, so that was fun. MTV was super fun. I actually met some incredible people. This lady Seher, who I'm still very much in touch with, who's sort of now ventured out and done and is doing her own thing. Really amazing people. I've met some amazing people through Bollywood as well.
Yeah.
A lot of people who are still my friends, loads of people who are like family friends, you know,
Yeah.
you could say when we were little and
Yeah,
like
yeah.
they were, even though my dad passed away, but they were like kind of like either our age or a bit older, whatever.
Got you.
So there are some really amazing people and connections that I made whilst I was in India. And my friends, oh my God, some of the best friends ever in my life I have made in those 8 years that I lived in Mumbai. We're still in touch. We still like are the little festival crew and stuff. And yeah, super fun.
Why did you? So I mean, sounds like you really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
You know, you learned a lot. You met cool people. You know, your family was kind of in it.
Yeah.
You know, because you said your brother's.
My brother's also an actor now. He's
Runs in the
doing
family,
really well.
doesn't it?
Yeah, he's doing really well for himself. So I'm really proud of him. I mean, to be honest, if I gave it a couple more years, then this whole like, they call it OTT in India, which is like your Netflix, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Prime. Then they've got their own versions of Netflix and Prime in India.
Got you.
Z something and something. There's loads. There's
Yeah.
loads like of these OTT. I think if I had stuck around a bit longer, I would have probably been able to have access to better work. But then I decided to move to Dubai in 2015.
Why?
For my love of my life, I basically gave up my whole dream or career to then be with the love of my life, who I'm still with. So that wasn't a bad wasn't a bad sacrifice.
So I've obviously had the pleasure of knowing him.
Yes, you do.
Such a legend. We actually work in the same industry.
You guys work in the same industry,
We
exactly.
do. But wait, so you met? Did you meet him in India?
No, we met at a music festival.
Azora.
Yeah, called Azora, exactly. Azora Festival, which is in Hungary.
Yes.
Which was my first Azora, but his third Azora, if I'm not mistaken, or second.
For those that don't know what Azora is,
Yeah.
Try and I know there's so much to it, and it's why we're such good friends.
Exactly.
How would you describe Azora and the whole scene around it?
See, Psytrance in general, I think is like it's not just a music genre. I feel like it's a lot more than just music. It's like a culture. And I actually like started being a part of like the whole Psytrance community whilst I was living in India, when I discovered Goa, like very shortly after moving there. When did I even move to India? Was it 2007, I think? Yeah, I think it was 7 or 6. 7, I think it was 7. And then I discovered Goa very shortly after in like 2008 or 9. And then like, it's more like a family. It's a community. It's like a way of life in the sense that it's very conscious living. You could say bohemian in a way, like a bohemian outlook to life and a way of being and a way of, all of that.
Such an incredible sort of genre, and it's like I said, it's so much more than just
music.
So much more than just music, and you try and explain that to people, and they don't quite understand.
You have to go for a Psytrance festival or party to understand what it's about. To be honest,
and I don't think I've ever met anyone that actually goes to them and ends up saying,
because there's this whole like fear-based thing around it. Oh my God, the music's really intense. It's like, which is true. There is intense music. There is like hardcore music, but none of us listen to that.
Yeah.
I did maybe at some point, but I don't anymore. And I don't think I ever would again. You know, it's like that there is intense music, but then there's fun music as well. And there's fun people and fun vibes. So,
and it's the connection that you have with people. You know, I feel like at these festivals. So I mean, obviously at these festivals, you know, there's a lot of drugs, and it's you know, it's psychedelic. There's you know, ayahuasca, DMT. There's acid. It's a very like, I don't even know how you would even describe that, because I never like to use the word like, because anyone coming from the outside would see it and be like, that just looks like scary, grim, bunch of druggies running around. But it's so not.
It's so not. I have friends who go there, don't do any drugs, come there with their kids, make it like a family holiday. Like, you know, there's like activities to do for children and stuff at these festivals, like Boom and Azora both. But I can't remember the Azora one's name, but that's all I'll speak about the Boom festivals. Yeah. It's called Young Dragons. It's an entire area with just different activations for children and different workshops and different things, and it's amazing.
And what other festivals are there where you can like bring your kids?
Every Psytrance festival.
Every Psytrance festival,
literally.
You can bring your kids. And you know what? I've always been a big advocate. I think taking drugs recreationally, I don't think is a negative thing. And the reason being is, when you take something like ecstasy or MDMA, you know, I feel like you become so vulnerable and you open up, and the connections that I make with people when I'm at a festival, you know, I'm on MDMA, I feel like I can connect with someone in a fraction of the time than what it would take for me to now have to connect with them normally. But and I think it's because we're vulnerable and we open up, and, you know, we're so much more conscious than when we're not.
Yeah. See, I don't know about like chemicals for me, but I understand them because now there's a lot of like studies around like mental health and like all of it. But something like psilocybin, for example, it's literally been proven that psilocybin can heal things like depression, addictions, people who are going through chemo with cancer patients are given things like psilocybin, and it's really helped them, like, you know, through that journey and coming to terms with everything that they're going through. So there's a lot of studies now, even with MDMA
in Australia. In Australia, there's massive studies for depression
and PTSD and all of it. So there's a lot now coming out about these drugs, you know,
Yeah.
which technically everything is a drug. Everything, like even a Panadol is a drug.
Yeah,
So-
alcohol.
Alcohol is the worst drug. I don't drink alcohol. I stopped drinking alcohol consciously in 2014 just because it made me like a very different person. And that isn't who I am. And it made me angry. It made me like really bitchy and stuff. Can you imagine me? Literally so not who I am. So I was like, listen, this is just not serving me and it's super toxic. And I honestly started drinking really late. I started drinking when I was about, I think 19.
Yeah.
And that was also the same time I started getting really deep into my yoga stuff because I was
Okay.
living in India and I started becoming it's called Ashtanga yoga. It's this very particular type of yoga where you do the practice between 5 to 7 a.m.
Yeah.
So the times I used to drink, my body was just physically just rejecting it. You know what I mean? So I just couldn't, for me, it just wasn't serving me as a person and everything. And people are like, oh, how'd you go out and have fun? I'm like, honestly, I don't need anything. I'm just having such a good time. And Dubai is so easy to make plans with people because so many, like a lot of like my Arab friends don't drink either. So it's
Exactly.
perfect, you know? There's like a lot of people, like it's such a health and fitness and wellness community here that's so easy to find people who aren't into the drinking thing either. So
You know,
it's really not that hard.
Exactly. And I feel like most people, that's when people make their bad decisions is when you drink.
Oh, yeah.
And drinking is every bad decision starts with drinking.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like a lot of people will blame a whole bunch of other drugs or anything like that. But
Yeah.
actually, it's alcohol,
Yeah, which is the worst.
Which is the worst. And yet that's the one that's sort of most widely accepted and
So
used.
someone had, it was another podcast, I can't remember who it was,
Yep.
but they spoke about like alcohol is actually from the Arabic word called alcool. And that basically is being like out of touch with your spirit, like
Okay.
kind of like taking over, your body is taken over by an external, not a demon, but
Yeah.
something on those words, and like how it's not good, like it's evil basically. Like alcohol is something that's really evil, and that's where the word alcohol came from. So I saw that recently and I was like, yeah, I'm really proud that I haven't like drunk in that long. Though having said that, I have had an occasional glass of wine, which I don't think really is alcohol. Probably in the last 10 years, like 4 or 5 times I can think of when
Yeah.
I've had that glass of wine. I saw a friend after like 10 or 12 years. I saw another friend like after COVID, like 4 years after some, like my mom's like
Yeah.
birthday, like things like that. So I have had that like half a glass of wine or something, but that's like in 10 years having it like
Yeah.
4 or 5 times that I can literally count on my fingers on
not
one
like-
hand.
It's not like you're going out, pissed
Yeah,
on the
raging.
weekend.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that's why I feel like the Middle East and, this Gulf region is so peaceful.
Yes.
It's because if you think about it, it's like that's why you're not getting ramping, raving,
Yeah.
drunkards every night. Like, it seems like it's super peaceful. And
So
even with the whole
peaceful.
like Islam like religion, it's
Yeah.
very peaceful. And if you look at
Absolutely.
like they don't allow drinking and
Yeah.
you got to put like the dots together and
No,
kind of
100%,
see.
100%. And I feel like, see, I moved here in 2015. It was a very different Dubai then.
What was Dubai like then?
Honestly, it was in terms of like already being a bit more open-minded and stuff. It was already going there. There wasn't as much to do, There
Yeah.
wasn't like so much going on as there is now. And there weren't so many people. Like I believe just since COVID, they've had like an influx of like 2.5 million extra people just in Dubai, not
Yeah.
even in the UAE. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's grown in terms of like how many like diverse people are moving here. Like
Yeah.
initially, like I'd go to a party, not like a drinking party, but like I would still go, like because
Yeah.
Kunal used to still drink till
Yeah.
about 4 years ago. He doesn't drink now either. Placebo effect.
Yeah.
I mean, he still does on his like office, like Christmas party or whatever, but that doesn't really count. So I would go out and then the first question is, oh, hi, what's your name? I'd be like, Sonia. So what do you do? I'd be like, dude, there's so much more to me than what I do.
Yeah.
And honestly, now, like you go out and you meet people and you're meeting so many so I think the people are making the place more than
Yeah,
anything.
100%.
Because the place was already sort of modernizing in the
Yeah.
sense like with their vision and
Yeah.
things that they've had planned for the city, that was already on board. But I think the people make the place. And the fact that so many amazing people like yourself have also moved after COVID, yeah?
You know what I find? So many like-minded people are
Yeah.
here kind of in Dubai. And there's
Yeah.
lots of different kind of like-minded people. But, you know, everyone that comes here everyone's kind of like stepped out of their comfort zone to move here. You
Yeah.
know, what I love about Dubai is everyone here is a tourist in the
Yeah.
city, right? No
Yeah.
one, it's 2% of the population or whatever is actually their family home.
Yeah.
So when everyone comes here, no one... The biggest issues I see that's happening around the world is so many of these countries, the people that sort of are from there, they don't like, you know, foreigners coming in, and it's creating so much conflict.
Open. Yeah, absolutely. Oh my God, the locals here are like the nicest humans ever. Like honestly, like once, okay, such a small, silly example, but like once I was like, there was an elevator and then this local man like came over and then I was like, oh, okay, like, you know, no, please go, like, sir, like, I was like, I'll take the next one. And he's like, no. And he held like the elevator door, oh, please, like, you know, and he's like, after you. And I was like, oh, wow. He like, I wasn't even sure if he would be okay sharing an elevator like with a woman, but he was so open-minded, so lovely. And this happened a lot. Like even the ladies, like they're so nice. Like they'll always compliment me. Oh, what are you wearing? Wallah, so nice. And like everyone like is so polite and amazing. Honestly, the locals here are my most absolute favorite people.
And I think that's why there's a massive stereotype for people that when they don't come to Dubai, they hear it and they think, you know, oh, you know, it's a man's world.
It's
Women,
so
you know, women
not.
can't wear, you know, certain clothing
Not
with their
at
shoulders. And
all.
it's so not like
It's
that.
so not. Well, I'll be honest, when I first moved here, like if I wore like a top like this at one of the malls, the security would have told me off.
2015, eh?
Yeah, they would have. Up until I think 18,
Yeah.
they would have told me off and been like, oh, you can't wear clothes like that. Like there would be signs everywhere, please wear respectful clothing and all of that. And if you didn't, like they would tell you off, which is fair enough, which is still like, according to me, okay, this is just my own personal, everyone else is free to do what they do in Dubai. But there's certain areas where I know there will be like a lot of local people, like Al Sakal Avenue, for example. I'm not going to go there with like the tiniest shorts and like a crop top just because I respect their culture. I will maybe wear the shorts, but with a longer thing, and I'll probably wear a long kimono on top. Just that's because how I respect the culture. Maybe it's coming from like an Indian family background or something.
I think it's so important. Though.
Yeah.
I think we should definitely all do that. At the end of the day, you know, we're
if you're on the
visitors.
palm, exactly. If you're on the palm and going to the beach, fine, wear your crop top and your bikini and whatever, but don't wear that to like somewhere. I don't know. There's still a line, and I think everyone should be a bit aware of that. And by the way, you did mention something because we were talking about local women. Those women are not forced to wear those things. They do that by choice. And there's a whole fashion that goes on in their thing. And I notice it. So I always compliment them because they all have their own fashion. Like it's a whole thing. These abayas and what they wear underneath it. So it's all a vibe. Like, and they're super open-minded. Like they're never going to say something to you. It's just that I myself personally wouldn't feel comfortable wearing something like super like, you know, tiny when I know that, you know, that there's going to be a lot of them there just because I respect their culture and this is their country after all. So we should be respecting it. But again, that's just my point of view. Not everyone needs to do that.
No, and I think that's so down to kind of like the person that you are, right? And you know, since you sort of moved to Dubai sort of all those years ago, now you left you left your sort of like acting career and you moved here. What exactly is it that you have been doing? Because, you know, I can see from your social media, you know, you're somewhat of an influencer, you know. So, you know, what is it that you sort of dived into since you moved to Dubai?
So the first thing I started off with, so I've always had an Instagram account. And even when I moved here, it was already Instagram.
What sort of following did you kind of like have then?
I already had a following because of my India sort of acting stuff. And that's why most of my followers are from India. And then the second country is, the second you can see on your insights is UAE, but mainly my followers are from India.
Yep.
And I was just posting basically what I wore, or if I in India went to events and stuff like that, things that I like, things that I did, which is basically everything you read in my bio from yoga to blah, blah, blah. So here's the thing. Before I left India, I think, when did I start teaching yoga? Yeah, 2012. End of 2012, or 11? Was it 11? Either 11 or 12, I started teaching yoga. And then I started doing that on the side in my last 2 or 3 years of India. And then when I moved here, so that was kind of like my side hustle, and acting was my main hustle. And then when I moved here, I still had an agency to do modeling jobs and stuff, but then yoga kind of became my main profession.
Yep.
And I also have certificates. I hate calling myself a healer. Again, that's just a personal thing.
Yeah.
But I have like studied healing, and I offer healing as an offering as well.
What is that?
Reiki, which is like just white light healing, touch healing,
Okay.
energy healing.
Okay.
Then there's crystal healing, which is
Yeah.
basically these like rocks, you can call it,
Yeah.
which are actually not rocks. They're like magical rocks,
Yeah.
and all have energy in them and, you know, specific kind of powers in them. So crystal healing, and then Tibetan bowls, which is these gold bowls that
Yeah.
when you hit them, they make sound. So sound is vibration. Vibration is basically frequency, and we are water. And then that's how that sort of helps balance your water body. So these are
Okay.
the three healing forms that I have certifications in, and
Yeah.
it's something I offer as well.
Okay.
So that and yoga is sort of like my main thing that I offer.
Yeah.
And then over the years, like I also did a bar teachers training. So bar basically, which a lot of people don't know what bar is. So I'm going to tell people what bar is. Bar is low intensity interval strength training. So it's basically you're hit without all the hecticness. It's more sculpting. It's a lot of fun. It's a combination, you could say, like of aerobics, like that old school 80s James Fonda vibes. It's a combination of that, Pilates, dance, because you use the ballet bar, BAR, the bar, that long thing.
Okay.
And that's where the BARRE bar came from, because you use that ballet bar to basically do exercises.
Is it a new kind of form of...
Not that new. I think from like the 60s or 70s.
Okay, so it's been around a while.
It's been around a while, but why I say not that new? Because like yoga is like really ancient.
Yeah.
And even Pilates is like from like the 20s, 30s, all of that.
Yeah.
So compared to the rest of them, it's fairly like new. But yeah, in terms of how long it's been around for a while, but it just gained popularity, I think, in like the mid 2010s,
Okay.
you would say.
So
It's fairly new in like a sort of popular, you know, sort of, for people to like be interested in. So I've been teaching that. Well, I did my course January 2020. 2 months later, the world shut down. Then I was doing it as an online thing. And then during COVID, like everyone, I had like this whole kind of realization, and I wanted to slow down teaching yoga, like teaching basically in general.
Yeah.
And I wanted to sort of focus on growing my Instagram in terms of like, because I already had grown. So I never planned to do Instagram as a profession. It all just sort of organically happened.
Yes.
I used to, like I said, just post things that I like to do, post things I ate, post my workouts, post my clothes, all of it, just all lifestyle, like everything under that umbrella.
And that was that just because you were interested in it?
I just found it fun.
And you
I
found it
love
because you're being creative.
Oh my God, I loved it. Even when I was little, I don't know, you're probably before the generation of like High Five and Zanga, but we used to have like, and MySpace. So I had like MySpace. I used to love like, not vlogging, sorry, blogging and like, you know, sharing stuff. I've always been into that, like when I was like little.
Okay.
So that was like literally from like the age of like 7 to like 12, where we used to have like MySpace and all of that stuff.
Okay.
And I was really always into like blogging and stuff.
Yeah.
So I just used it as a personal blog. It wasn't even to do anything. And then suddenly, just about like maybe like halfway into COVID, like 2021, I started getting lots of brands reaching out to me, and people were like paying me and stuff. So I was like, this is interesting. I could actually make money off this. So I was like, let me just try and give this maybe a year and see how it goes, and see if it's something that I can get like a steady income from and all of it. So I did give it a go. So
when you said give it a go, right? And this is for anyone that's looking at kind of building their social profile.
Yeah.
You know, what did you do when you said kind of like give it a go? What was your strategy?
Honestly, I'm really lucky, touch wood, because I never really had to go out there look for stuff.
Yeah.
It just all just started coming to me organically. Okay. And then the more sort of brands I worked with, the more brands that would approach me. And then, I don't know, I guess you just kind of go out to like a database in Dubai, different PR companies start calling me for events and brand, collaborations and stuff. So it all sort of really, for me, luckily happened organically. But anyone who's starting off, I just say like, do what I did. Just like share things you love, like tag the brands. I was always tagging brands. Even this is before like I started getting paid. I still tag brands if I like them and I've not been paid by them or it's not a collab or something. If I like something, it's not like, oh my God, no, they have to like give me free stuff or they have to like pay me for me to mention them. That I'm not like that. So till date, I'm still or going to a restaurant and like, tagging them. So I just continue doing that. Just continue sharing what you love and what what your vision is for your page. And then things will just sort of happen on their own.
Because your stuff's like extremely like creative, and for anyone looking at your stuff, and it's not, I think that's the thing that most people struggle with the most when it comes to content creation. It's like, okay, cool. You can have this whole vision and, brands can approach you and say, okay, cool, listen, I've got this product, I would love for you to kind of, showcase it. But then you got to now come up with something creative, something engaging.
Oh my God, absolutely.
How do you do that?
So honestly, I don't know. That's a really good question. It just comes to me. Again, like I've always been a creative person. Like apart from like the acting stuff, even that's why like yoga, bar, all of these things are also very creative because you have to come up with like creative sequences or like, it's all part of the same art kind of umbrella. That's why I'm really grateful that I never needed to do an office or desk job. I would literally die. That's just so not who I am. Oh my God, that's just so not who I am. That's why I'm so grateful that now with doing the yoga and the healing and the bar stuff, it's all very creative still. And I've always written, I always used to write, even when I have to look for those journals. Like I always used to Dear Diary, of course, but I've always written poetry since I was about 11 or something. And honestly, all of this stems back to my dad. I'm like so grateful for him because everything I am today, everything about me, whether it's the writing, whether it's the wanting to dive deep into spirituality, whether it's wanting to heal myself and my childhood trauma or the trauma I had in my teens or after while I lived in India, to then wanting to, I want to help people like who are hurting and let them know that there's a way out there. It's all correlated to my dad, honestly. I'm so grateful for him. And he wasn't even physically here, but he was here and he made me the woman I am today. I have everything to thank for him. And yeah, I don't know if that even makes sense to people and they'll probably be like, what? But it really like, I can't explain to you. If someone's recently lost someone, I just want them to know that as awful and tragic as it must be right now, and I understand that physically not having that person there is heartbreaking, but I promise you very soon, I've been like, it's been like 32 years since my dad passed, 31 maybe, like you are going to realize that all of that happened to you in your life at that time for a reason. And the fact that now you've got someone like working with source energy, with a higher power guarding you. Like I feel so protected all the time. Like there's so many times things could have gone really wrong,
Yeah.
Like for example, my car once broke down really badly, my old car on Sheikh Zayed Road, not once, it happened a few times. My tire, I was on 120 and it went bust and suddenly my car started tilting. All of these things, it's all because I've got my dad like operating from a higher power protecting me. So I just want people, if anyone's lost someone close to them right now, just to let them know that that person may not be here physically, but being there metaphysically makes it just so much more magical and special. And that's how I've always looked at life. I've always looked at life being something magical. And everything is a sign and everything is magic. And that's how I view the world, like through the lens of like magic and mystical and love, really. And that's how you receive that as well. And that's how I really feel. Yeah, it's all because of my dad. So.
And I think what you were able to do is deal with that grief in a very sort of creative sort of like output.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I feel like people when they do deal with when they're grieving, you've got to find a way to kind of channel that, or you can either choose to spend the rest of your life
being
miserable and being a victim, or you can take that emotion
and make it
something special because emotion is actually such a powerful tool. And you look at some of the most famous actors, musicians.
Yeah.
What is some of the most incredible music that's been made? It's all
from
emotion.
heartbreak
It's
or
all from
grief
heartbreak or from grief. And I think it's super important that you're able to sort of channel that.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's exactly what I did. I never let my story be something that was tragic. I let that story empower me. And yeah, it's funny you speak about emotions because I actually made a video about this. So I speak a lot about mental health stuff as well on my page. And emotions, scientifically, what is an emotion? An emotion is energy in motion. So if you're going to just let that energy be stuck inside of you and not release it and channel it in the right way, which is for me was like through creativity, through writing, through movement. I started like gymming when I was really young, probably like 12 or 13, yoga when I was like 14 or 15. So for me, like movement of the body, dancing, I've always been a dancer. I started learning dance, I think when I was 4 or 5 with ballet, done everything from like ballet to jazz to ballroom dancing, even when I was a teenager, to like Indian classical dancing, to Bollywood, everything. Like I've always been a dancer. I've always like, if you don't let that energy be in motion and you just let it be stuck inside of you, that's when you have a problem. And because I've studied healing, I know for sure that every single disease or ailment or sickness in your life always is co-related to something that you've not released, whether it's anger. Anger has certain diseases and things that happen.
Yeah.
Grief has certain diseases and things that happen with it. Frustration, all of these are like, you could say toxic, not just for your mind, but for your body.
100%.
But having said that, you should not feel those emotions because that's when the diseases and stuff happen. It's about feeling those feelings and then releasing them and letting them go and being like, okay, this is just energy. There's a way for it to just sort of channel through me and out of me. And now that I've let it go and I've released it, I have a fresh new slate and I can start again.
So anyone going through sort of trauma, whether it's a loss of a family member or heartbreak from a breakup, what piece of advice could you give them to be able to kind of channel that negative energy and kind of release it?
So first and foremost, you have to go through it. There's no two ways about it. When somebody... Okay, forget when someone passes away. Let's say you broke up with your long-term boyfriend or girlfriend and everyone sends you a message, oh, you're going to be all right. Stay strong. No. Oh, I just cringe at that because I'm like, no, that person doesn't need to stay strong right now. There's a time and place to be strong. And that strength will happen through going through these emotions. You need to cry. You need to be angry. Like go on top of like a mountain and scream, do what you need to do, but release it. Like let it go. Cry for like a month if you have to, every single day before you go to sleep. But go through those emotions, and then at some point you will be so empty. Your vessel will be, wow, okay, I've released all of it. It'll just happen to you automatically because you honored yourself and you honored how you felt at that moment. Oh my God, I have to send you the link. This incredible video of Tyrese, who's apparently been through so many losses in the last 2 years. He's lost his mom, he lost his sister, lost as in they passed away. I think he went through a divorce, and he was on a podcast. I literally watched this video last night and he broke down into tears. And then he's like, I'm going to cry. And then the interviewer was like, oh, here's some tissues. And he's like, no, I'm not going to take those tissues. And threw it. He's like, black man cry, okay? And he's like, honor yourself, honor your emotions. And I'm like, wow, I was literally watching it and clapping. I was like, yes, man, more men especially. Oh my God, can we talk about this? About men and toxic positivity and toxic masculinity.
I think it's a huge, huge thing. And it's something I'm actually very self-aware of.
Yeah.
And I've embraced the understanding that it is a real thing, and that so many men, especially not as much in the newer sort of generations, but especially within your older sort of generations,
like the millennials and Gen Z, not so much. A bit. Some of the older millennials though also were brought up with that same typical, like the ones who are probably like in their almost 40 or 40s now.
Yeah.
Them probably, because that is still, even though it's millennial, it's still a bit different because it is like a 10-year sort of generation thing. So I just feel like men especially, like, were told when they were little, boys don't cry, boys don't show emotions. Or like, you know, even when you're having like a little boy's crying and then their dad will be like, are you a girl? Man up. And I'm like, what? Because that's absolutely wrong. You're teaching that child to suppress their emotions, that apparently men have to be strong when that's so not true. And then what ends up happening is those are the men who then go out into the world with so much anger and like probably are the ones who cheat on their wives or like, you know, who are just not nice humans, abusive, like, you know, domestic violence victims. Usually if you look at their husbands or boyfriends or whatever, they all came from a background of like a very toxic male. Not saying all, but I'm saying most of them.
Yeah.
And it's sad because men, if you, I think there's a statistic about this that men are more likely to have like heart condition problems than women. And why? Again, it's heart is all to do with your emotional body, your heart chakra, your literal like energy center of love and compassion and all of it, which is suppressing by constantly keeping sadness or grief or anger or whatever. You're just keeping that within you, you know? And then over time, that goes back to what I was talking about, the diseases and the health and sicknesses and everything that's related to. And men are mostly, also men die younger than women. That's also statistically proven that they're the ones who, like women live a bit longer because women are just emotional beings and we go through our emotions and we own them and we like process them and we release them. And then again, that goes back to feel your feels. Otherwise it's going to like be like poison going through your veins and literally make you sick.
And I think it's a lot of men, they feel, they also feel sort of like a bit ashamed because kind of society just has this thing that men just need to be strong, or that, you know, women don't like it when, you know, men are too feminine, you know, crying is a sense of weakness. But as a woman yourself, you know, what do you think about that for any sort of men that, you know, don't want to show emotions because they see it as being too feminine or that, you know, it's not attractive for women when a guy's in touch?
It's so ridiculous. And by the way, this is also proven by science. When you cry and your body releases that water, your cortisol levels are actually lowering. So whatever you were stressed or upset about, so stress and upset causes cortisol. Cortisol is basically the stress hormone of your body. And that one bloody hormone is poison. It's literally toxic for you. It's poison. It causes like stomach issues, skin issues, everything, hormonal imbalances, eventually like heart conditions and all of that. But even just like surface little things that cortisol causes. But they've proven it with science that when you're angry or when you're upset, when you're frustrated, the moment you release those tears, your cortisol levels literally lower by like 70%. So crying is actually good for you. It's a way of like cleansing, releasing, letting go emotions, energy, letting go of energy. You're literally letting go through your body. Your body's releasing.
Well, I think everyone feels so good
after you cry.
Like, how good is that feeling? You know, when you've actually had like a proper sob
cry.
and you actually, it's amazing how you just feel like, oh.
Yeah, you feel so good.
Life's not that bad.
It's science. It's literally you've released cortisol. You've let go of stuff. And then spiritually and all of that, you can get into like the energy of it and the emotions, the heaviness, the energy being in motion. That's motion. That's releasing. That's letting go. So crying is so important. And I hope and pray that more men like own their emotions, like Tyrese, like someone like that masculine energy being out there and like giving such a vulnerable interview. Wow, like vulnerability is strength, literally is. That is strength. According to me, like processing and going through what you feel is more strength than actually, you know, masking it and being like, oh my God, I need to be strong. That's not strength.
100%. And you know, you're saying sort of about that sort of cortisol. Exactly. That's your stress. It's the stress hormone, right? And through crying, you can release it. But that's why fitness and exercise, because what's one of the number one reasons in order to reduce your cortisol levels?
Oxytocin, which is your love hormone. And you get that from, of course, being with a pet or someone you love. My little Buzzy, I have a bulldog called Buzz. I love him. Being with someone you love. But exercise literally releases oxytocin, endorphins, and not dopamine. Dopamine as well.
The dopamine,
dopamine as well.
And that causes your cortisol levels
and
to drop.
all three things, imagine like those three are magic.
Yeah.
It removes the cortisol. So again, movement, it goes back to what I was talking about. Like you need to move your body. When you ask me, how do you release emotion? You have to move your body. Even if you just go for a walk, you know, that's enough. Like to get like all that, your heart rate going, your oxytocin, your endorphins, all those other things, the good hormones like pumping in your body and through your body.
Definitely. And that's one thing people, I think, don't do enough of. You know, when you're going through a traumatic experience, it's almost like a lot of people go through a traumatic experience and then stop doing all those things.
Yeah.
And it's like, no.
You have to do the opposite.
That's when you need to do it the most. That's when you need to double up on those things. And how I deal with certain emotions and issues is like, I love to run. And when I'm running, you know, my body's just flowing. Like, you know, I've got my music on and like, you know, like I feel like I'm dealing with my issues and my problem
better
in my head. I'm solving the problems in my head, which I would never be able to solve if I was
you're just sitting crying and moping about it.
But there's something about movement and you know, that rush of the dopamine and all of those hormones which really allow you to deal with the traumas.
Movement is so important. And honestly, like someone like you gets it because you're also like fitness is your life and that's your existence. So I always say this, fitness isn't something I do, it's something I am. It's like my identity. Like so many people are, oh my God, you're always working out. I wish I could be like you. You're always training. You're always at the gym. You're so good. You're so disciplined. I'm like, no, honestly not. Because for me, it's like you wake up, you eat your breakfast, right? For people, and you get this, right? Yeah. For me, it's like I wake up and I do my workout. That's part of my day. It's part of my routine. It's like something I do, you know?
It's like you breathe.
Yeah, exactly. Like you breathe. Sorry, not something I do, something I am. It's just something very normal. And I think everyone can get there. Like I know I've been working out since I was 12 or 13, so like 20 years, 21 years, or 22 almost. Yeah, that's a long time. But whatever, you don't need to be doing something for 22 years for it to become a habit. Like 21 days, if you just give it a go, try and work out even 3 or 4 times a week if someone's new to it, and you start that and you make that part of your journey, you'll just want to do it. It's just like having a shower makes you feel fresh. Working out will also make you feel fresh. You know what I mean? And you get this, so. Because,
you know, fitness is a lifestyle.
A lifestyle. That's the word I was looking for.
It's not a tap you just turn on and off. And that's where I think people get it wrong, is they think, okay, cool, I've got 12 weeks. 12 weeks. I've changed my body, changed my life. And then they do it for 12 weeks and then they stop. And then they go back to exactly what they're doing. And then they wonder why they're in the exact same position that they were. They can make so much progress. In 12 weeks, someone can make so much progress mentally, physically. And then they turn the tap off, and then you know how it is in fitness. Like it can take you 8 weeks to get to where you need, but 2 weeks off and you back to where you start. So it's a lifestyle.
Yeah, absolutely. And I laugh because there's so many, I have clients who are like, oh, this is it. I've got 12 weeks left for summer. We need to do every single day. And I'm just like, literally roll my eyes. And now I've educated a lot of my clients and my students that that's not how it should be. You should be always like there's nothing to, okay, this is the problem, okay? The problem with people is they think fitness and all of this is an aesthetic thing. A lot of people are doing it for aesthetic goals to look. This is my problem with gym bros, okay?
Yeah. And toxic masculinity.
And toxic masculinity. It all, and I'm no one to judge. This is my own opinion. I'm sorry if this offends people, but I'm saying it already, okay? But I just feel even the women who are in that whole like gym and bodybuilding and those bodybuilding competitions, I literally cringe. I can't can't, because they're also so stuck in that masculine energy,
Yeah.
like the women in it,
Yeah.
that they're so looking at those aesthetics and like this. And then you're actually putting all these harmful chemicals like steroids and stuff. I don't even know how that's allowed. But like, for example, in the Olympics, weightlifting, if you're caught with any of those things in your blood, you're disqualified. Why? Because there's a reason for it. Because that stuff is toxic, You're not supposed to be. So for me, like, that's my problem with like all this whole bodybuilding community is like they're all looking at aesthetics. If you actually take any of their blood reports, they're probably all like so unhealthy. They're not even healthy.
No.
Like the whole point of being fit is to be healthy.
It's health and fitness. And
health and wellness.
That's the biggest scam, I do think. You see on the front cover of these fitness models, these Instagram influencers in fitness, they're all on performance enhancing drugs. Like 90% of them, right? That,
exactly.
You know those ones where you look at them, you're like, oh my God. Like you cannot physically look like that naturally.
Can't.
But yes, what's so toxic about that is that's what everyone aspires to be like. And then no wonder you wake up in the morning and you hate how you look. You're miserable because you're trying to chase this goal, which is unattainable.
Oh my God, you said something so amazing. Forget their blood report and their blood count. But what must their mental health be like? All of them are miserable. Like whenever I go to the gym, so I'm also like, I do a lot of things. For me, I don't just stick to just a gym. I love attending group classes. I teach group classes and love attending it. I love the vibe and energy. I personally do a lot of Pilates, a lot of bar myself. These are my own workouts. HIIT. I like that once a week HIIT, or like the other time a week, like spin class or whatever. But when I go to just a gym, like a gym, everyone's just so angry in there. I'm like, what's going on? Because they're just so pissed off all the time about like how they look and that they're not good enough and they're not this, and they've got this unworthiness mentality. Whereas when you're actually moving your body and you don't care about what you look like, but I'm one of them, by the way. I had this whole thing only until I turned 30 is when I stopped looking at, oh my God, I need to have a 4-pack, or oh my God, my legs are too big, or like all of this stuff. And I stopped it because I'm like, what the hell? By thinking of what my body looks like, what does my body actually feel like? What does my mind feel like? And then that's where you're like, 1 second, you're losing like the point of fitness. The point of fitness is to be healthy. And I swear my granddad used to say this, the oldest thing in the book, quote in the book, health is wealth. And it literally is. So what's the point if you're not if you're not like being healthy and you're just like looking at like, so it basically is, it backfires everything. So my advice to everyone is stop looking at aesthetics. Stop being like, oh, I've got 12 weeks left and I need to have this bikini body, or like, look awesome because I'm going for a festival or whatever and I need to be in great shape. That's not what it's about. Like, change that mindset. Oh, I'm going to Boom, for example. I need to be fit for it. Why? Because that festival is such a mission. You have to walk like from our teepee tents, which is the closest like tenting area. I've tracked it on my watch. It's a 1.2 kilometer walk to go to anywhere. Okay. And one way. So you should be thinking, okay, I'm going to Boom. I don't need to aesthetically look good. That's not what I'm training for. I'm training to actually be able to handle the fact that I need to walk so much, that I need to dance so much, that I need to, for like, just change your mindset about what fitness is.
But don't you think it's the biggest problem is, and listen, I fall into it. I'm less concerned about it now. When I was growing up as a teenager, it was always about, look good, do it for the girls, whatever.
I'm telling you,
and as I've grown
my whole teens, my whole 20s, it was all about that.
And to some extent, sometimes you need those things to drive you and motivate you in order to get into that shape. But it is when you do get older, you do realize that the mental benefits actually outweigh the physical benefits.
And the actual health benefits of movement and exercise.
But I think society makes it very difficult because we're always comparing.
Yeah.
And that's where I think social media makes it very difficult. And
toxic.
I think, it's toxic without it even being. So let's say someone, for instance, comes onto your page, right? You fit, you're in good shape. Now they'll look at you and be like, oh, like I want to look like that.
Yeah.
But I look like me and this is what she looks like. So now I'm going to have to, it's not even really about the mental gains. People just see that physical appearance and think, oh shit, like I want to look like that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It always is like that. But in a way, like you said, maybe that would motivate someone to
Yeah.
get on a treadmill or get
Yeah.
gym membership or sign up for like those
Yeah.
Pilates classes, maybe, which is good because that's the initial step. But I really hope that when people are on that journey and then they realize, oh, wow, this is actually making me feel good.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, this is actually, I feel really good. Like I feel great. You know, and that's how you feel as well when you work out. And that's how I feel. And I think eventually people will have that realization. I hope.
And I think they do. It's when you have that realization when you stop caring about what other people think.
Yeah.
And I think that's it, because we care so much
What
about
others
what other
think.
people think. And especially when you're in your teenage years, you
Yeah.
sort of like in your 20s, you care so much about what other people think. But then the older you get, you learn that who actually gives a fuck what
Yeah.
other people think? You know, as
Yeah.
long as you're happy,
Yeah.
then that's actually what matters. And then that's when you start to realize actually there's more benefits than to just looking good. It's because I care about my
Yeah.
own self-respect.
Yeah.
That's why you want to look good.
That's what I was going to say
I
that
wake
right
up
now.
I wake up in the morning and I look in the mirror and I want to be happy with what I look like because I have
Yeah.
self-respect for myself. That
Exactly.
cool. This is the standard that I set for me, and that's why.
Yeah. And that's why, so you touched a really good topic there, because I think why people are, always seeking these outside, like, you know, like I need people's approval is because they're not happy with themselves. And I've battled a lot of mental health issues. I speak about it a lot on my page, where I've battled a lot of like unworthiness. It's an ongoing battle. I still have it. It's not like, oh wow, I'm like some enlightened being now that I'm in my mid-30s. No way. There's still these waves, you know, ups
Yep.
and downs. But I am just I've worked so much on my own self-security and my own self-worth and my own self-knowing that I am enough. Literally just that one affirmation, I am enough, I am worthy, I am enough. Because you are. And the moment you start realizing your own worth and your own, you know, everythingness, then you stop seeking that approval from others and outside. And that's what it's about, really.
Without a doubt. Without
Yes.
a doubt. And I just wish more people, and that's the beauty of, I think, even these festivals that we go to in
Yeah.
Psytrance, it's all about accepting who you are and
you
accepting other people for
Yeah.
who they are.
Yeah.
You know?
And even I think festivals in general now, I think it's such a big culture, like electronic music festivals in general. Like it's such a massive culture of just kind of going for those 2 to 7 days, depending on what festival, and just being who you are, dressing the way you want,
Not caring what other people
not caring
think.
what other people think. I think it's literally therapy, honestly. And there was a statistic. I watched a video recently that there's like some 200 nightclubs in the UK that have shut down since 2020. And why? Because millennials, younger millennials like us, I mean, you're still a lot younger than me, but like our sort of millennials and Gen Z are now, they don't want to go out to nightclubs. They want to look after their health and wellness. And if they do anything like go out, it's to a rave or to a festival. Why? Because those environments actually empower you, like you said. Whereas in a club, it's all the same toxic stuff. Oh, sparklers coming out, like flexing. Oh, I've got this much money, so I'm getting that champagne out. And I think like all of us lot and like the Gen Z and Gen Alpha are not even, none of us care about that stuff. We don't care about it. So I think like consciously there is a lot of like awareness and awakening, like as a collective consciousness happening on this planet, that like all of this stuff isn't like really what's the point of it all. And I'm happy to see like a lot of the world going in that direction.
Without a doubt. Now, we could literally
Speak for like 2 more hours.
we could speak for 2 hours, and I think how long have we been speaking for?
Yeah,
for
it's
about
been an hour.
now. So our time is unfortunately up, but I've got a final question. It's a question which I ask
course.
everyone on my podcast. This podcast is called Escaping Normal.
Yeah.
What does escaping normal mean to you?
I think it's just escaping normal is just about being who you truly are and owning that. And that's always been me. I've never fit into a box. I've never been like, you can never put me in like, oh, she's like this or she's like that. Even the way I dress, I've never like followed trends. And that's what escaping normal is. Just be who you are, own it. Stop like trying to fit into a version of what other people expect of you, of what society expects of you. Like by my age, so many of my friends, they already have people on their second kid by now at my age. And I'm like, which is fine. No judgment for that. That's your journey. You do you. But for me, that was just something that never worked. So that's escaping normal, that typical sort of stereotypical way of living life and just being like really who you want to be and like living life like out of the box and without limits.
Sonia was absolutely amazing.
Yay.
Can't wait to have you back on at some stage again.
Season 2.
So yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
And yeah, chat to you soon.
Amazing. See you soon.